Well, good morning. This is Ian R. Crane, and it's the morning of Monday, the 29th of April 2019. And it's an absolutely glorious morning here on the edge of the East Lancashire moors. It's spring, and there's freshness in the air. And, come spring, obviously, it's a new opportunity to go into absurdity. And, I've been away a month, and I'd love to say that, I've come back after 4 weeks of live stream broadcasting, and everything is truly wonderful. And, the world is back on track, and we have some national political stability, some geopolitical stability, and, everyone's focusing on building a collective future that benefits the whole of humanity and indeed the whole of the planet. But nothing really could be further from the truth right now. So 4 weeks, back on the 1st of April, it was just a few days since the UK was due to exit the European Union. But of course that hasn't happened, and the can is getting kicked down the road. And the attitude of the globalists is that, basically the British, we've got them right where we want them. They're under the jackboot, and they're going to kick up a bit. And we're going to see a few letters in the media, and we're going to see a few blogs on video. But the bottom line is that the British are now so dumbed down that basically we can just keep them doing whatever it is that we want them to do. And they might bitch and whinge a bit, but we've shut down a very significant chunk of the pub so that we can minimize the amount of chewing the cud and putting the world to rights over the beers, and that everyone will just go home, get drunk on their cheap alcohol, and then go back to their commute the following morning. Well, that may be the attitude, and after a month, it's exactly a month, isn't it, since the original Brexit date, yet the tide is building, and it certainly looks to participate in the European elections. And of course, there is only one party to vote for, sadly, but that's the nature of the beast. And, no doubt, obviously, the whinging Remainers who have proven that they are the sorest losers on the planet will continue to try and suggest that, no, one should support, the parties that are pushing for a second referendum. Well, good luck with that. Because the bottom line is that, whether I like it or not, but Nigel Farage's Brexit party is going to absolutely storm it in the coming EU elections. And that's going to be despite the attempts by the lamestream media to demonise Farage and demonise anyone that's associated with Brexit. And of course, we're going to see the usual rhetoric. Anyone who wants Brexit must be a racist, must be a Europhobe, must be a far-right extremist. And, the number of times that I've been accused of being far-right over the past few weeks is truly absurd. So, somebody who absolutely supports the nationalisation of the utilities, the nationalisation of the major transport works, of an economic strategy that provides for everyone, all of a sudden that's far right because you don't agree with everything that the left wing wants you to agree. And the left wing is actually marginalising itself almost on a daily basis. And in fact, I got to say that, watching the behaviour of the left over the past few weeks, I completely understand why it drives people to the right. Now, the reality is that we should really ignore those who are on the far right or on the far left, because in the scheme of things, obviously, everyone is entitled to a point of view. But those people on the extremities, they are little more than an irritant. The crucial element is Middle England. And Middle England, by definition, is neither far right nor far left. Middle England wants to be able to get on with its life. Middle England wants to be able to enjoy family life, wants to be able to enjoy life without the constant pressure of a debt-based management, of course, wants people in abject economic slavery. So in the first instance, crucial element is Brexit. So, as we build up to the European elections, then the onus is on everyone who watches these broadcasts, as I'm sure you're already on the case, and that is to focus on supporting the parties that are advocating Brexit. Now, do I trust Nigel Farage? I've never met the man, but, his behaviour after the result was announced on the first referendum, hopefully the only referendum on this particular issue, defies belief. I mean, he'd actually won, despite the night before pretty much acknowledging that, he thought that the referendum vote had gone in favour of remaining, when he woke up in the morning and discovered that actually the opposite was the case, and that by a narrow margin, the Brexit vote had won through, and yet he stands down, leaving UKIP in absolute chaos. And of course, we've had that chaos now for almost 3 years. But now he stepped back up to the plate, and he's at the helm of the Brexit party. So what's he going to do? Once again, we get into the European elections, and, when there is perhaps a further call for a second referendum, and if that continues, what's he going to do? Resign again? Anyway, hopefully this time he'll show a little bit more fortitude and backbone and stay the course. And, whilst I think many people acknowledge that actually Nigel Farage is quite possibly one of the most significant raconteurs within the European Parliament, at least he keeps some degree of check on the excesses of the EU. But would he be right for national politics? Probably not. So the national political scene, of course, is a total joke. Because, first of all, Theresa May has demonstrated that she is clearly the woman to obfuscate. That's why she was Home Secretary. That's why she was tasked with losing all of the documentation that pointed the finger at senior establishment figures and their role in child abuse. So Theresa nicely buried that. Of course, she's kept any investigation into child abuse kicked in the long grass very, very adeptly, actually. And the same with Brexit. So, Theresa May is clearly a total puppet of the corporatocracy. And I don't think I'm really sharing anything that anyone watching this doesn't already know. And, who are they going to put in? Well, they're going to put in somebody who, of course, will do the bidding. It'll just be, in a different pair of trousers or whatever. So the Tory party in total disarray. So the Labour Party had it all to play for, but Jeremy Corbyn, after 35 years or whatever it is in the British Parliament, still didn't have the courage to stand up to his convictions of getting out of the EU. His long-held belief that Britain should not be in the EU has been compromised. And that is partly due to him succumbing to the bullying over the fake claims of anti-Semitism within the Labour Party. And of course, anyone who thinks that this is unique to the UK just needs to look at what's going on elsewhere in the world, because people think that what's happening in the UK is unique to the UK, but it's not. It's happening in the US, it's happening in Canada, it's happening in Australia, it's happening in New Zealand. And this is the globalist agenda to establish their one world administration. And a lot of people, of course, say, well, that would be amazing. And under different circumstances, I might agree. But the global mentality is light years away from being able to embrace global governance. Sadly, the competitive gene has become dominant and the cooperative gene has been suppressed. So we have a long way to go to get humanity back on track before there's any possibility of really considering realistically a global government, certainly one that has the interests of the wider planet at heart, as opposed to the philosophy of literally bleed everything dry for personal gain. So obviously we have the ongoing chaos of Brexit, and then we have, over the past 2 weeks, watched the debacle of Extinction Rebellion. And the good thing about all the BS that descended upon London with Extinction Rebellion is that it has flagged up the whole essence of this red-green revolution, and how anyone who has the audacity to criticize the motivation of the leadership of Extinction Rebellion must be contravening community standards. And just this morning, I have learned that one of the posts that I put up over the weekend, simply making the link between PR strategies that have been adopted in the past by unsavory political elements, and the fact that the same pattern is being used again. And of course, this contravenes community standards, because I have the audacity to challenge the new populist movement of the red-green revolution, which is ultimately funded by the likes of Soros and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And certainly anyone who dares to challenge or question the abuse of anyone who happens to be walking around with pigtails, then goodness me, then you can expect to be bitch slapped on social media from quarters that you didn't necessarily expect. But the good news is that more and more people are saying, well, hang on a second, let's dig a little bit deeper here. Let's try and understand how we have got into a situation at the back end of April 2019, which would appear to have manifested no earlier than August the 18th, 2018. So in the space of 8 months, a global movement has supposedly manifested from the grassroots level and grown organically into what it is now. In reality, nothing could be further from the truth. And, I'm deliberately going to talk in semi-riddles, because the reality is, if I don't, then the fascist social media, and this is, a communitarian fascism, where those at the bottom end of the food chain are expected to continue to be grateful for the fact they have nothing, whilst those at the other end of the spectrum continue to milk it for everything they possibly can. And, when we see the likes of Soros and Bill and Melinda Gates and Richard Branson, good morning, looks like I've got a studio audience. It's of the black and white Frisian variety, walking over, right there. Anyway, when we see, these people who are living lives of luxury, and they're luxury yachts that burn in a day more fuel than most of us use in our vehicles in the course of a year. And they're trying to dictate how we live, and they're trying to dictate that we should keep our focus on this ethereal climate change. Now, whether people want to acknowledge it or not, but I ask you to take a step back, because what this whole climate change BS is doing is it is completely undermining the genuine environmentalist movement. I've even noticed that in one case, Extinction Rebellion was credited with shutting down fracking in the UK. Well, how disingenuous is that to the people in communities right across the country to fight this abomination with such tremendous success that the latest poster girl for the shale gas industry, Natasha Engels, has resigned her commission. Interestingly, just a couple of days before a report apparently is due to be released questioning the her administration and the accuracy of the records that she has retained in the short time that she has been in the job. And it certainly seems that she's been cozying up to the industry a lot more than she's been taking account of the concerns of residents in the communities that have been targeted. So for Extinction Rebellion to even claim that they have contributed anything to the anti-fracking campaign is completely outrageous. And I, as I did a month ago, encourage people to look at the research of Corrie Morningstar and go to her outstanding blog, The Wrong Kind of Green. And, for people to take a look at the background and the interests of Gail Bradbrook, of Julian Roger Hallam, and of George Barder. And, you look at the way in which they are manipulating this social movement. And, for Julian Roger Hallam, he's hopefully going to, get some very significant funding for his ongoing research in social manipulation. So, are you going to be one of the manipulated? No, because you're watching this and you're already well aware of what's occurring. And the challenge, of course, is to stimulate the curiosity in others. And this is genuine grassroots, talking amongst ourselves at grassroots level, and then encouraging people to come to their own realization. But watch what's going to happen over the coming weeks and months, because what you're going to see increasingly is more and more posts on social media or submissions on social media having the tag "does not meet with community standards," which of course means that basically you're sharing something that doesn't support the lamestream narrative. So my thanks to my good friend Paul for the title of today's broadcast, because I think it sums it up perfectly. To absurdity and beyond. And of course, just while we're talking about Extinction Rebellion and their fake grassroots movement, because there's nothing grassroots about Extinction Rebellion. Grassroots movements grow from communities, physical communities, such as we've seen fighting fracking. Grassroots activism doesn't come from stimulating a meme on social media, which is why, for many of us, the important work is very much at the sharp end, in the heart of the communities. And, people who say they're not being manipulated, of course, you don't realize you're being manipulated. That's the beauty of the skill developed by the likes of Hallam, calling on the research in the past of the likes of Alinsky, and, looking at how they can use social media to keep people supporting their agenda, which ultimately, of course, benefit only them. Whereas, what the rest of us are trying to achieve, and we know it doesn't happen overnight, is a long-term transition to an economy that not only respects the natural world without having to charge everybody an arm and a leg to enjoy it, but it also respects the rights of every living entity to a life that doesn't subject them to abject slavery of any description. So those of you who say, well, I think Extinction Rebellion are on the right track. Okay, watch this space. I can assure you that Extinction Rebellion does not have your or my or the country's best interests at heart. And if you want to get an insight into their lack of concern about real issues, then just ask anyone associated with Extinction Rebellion what the role of geoengineering is in their climate change agenda, or what the role of 5G is. Because these two aspects, these two assaults on humanity, seem to be completely ignored by those who are trying to present the facade that they do have the environment's best interests at heart. No, they don't. They want to kickstart a new economy. They want to kickstart an economy which effectively monetizes the natural world. And, for one thing is for sure, it does not have your best interests at heart. And, take a look at, those who are financially invested in this agenda, and you might come very, very close to understanding what's occurring. So, all to play for, and I know that a lot of people are looking forward to AV10, and we do still have it's left for the event. Of course, the residential tickets were sold out a couple of months ago, and I know that we are in for a hell of a weekend. There will be a lot of wonderful debate and discussion, and no stone will be left unturned. And the beauty of alternative view events is that people are encouraged to discuss and debate, and people are reminded that it's okay to disagree. And of course, this is the thing about the left wing. Then nobody is allowed to disagree with them, because anybody who disagrees with them is immediately labeled as a shill or a government troll. Well, I'm not making any suggestions here one way or the other about people's allegiance. Just follow the money. Look at the research that's out there, and people will, in reality, come to the right conclusion and make the right decision ultimately as to who they're going to support. And I think we can also, by the way, expect to see an increasing assault on the that is bordering on ageism. We've seen it in the media already. Let's cut the benefits to the retirees, let's cut their free TV license, let's cut their free travel. Well, it's not going to be too long before we movement calling for the culling of the non-working population, because the attitude of the corporatocracy, which has been basically, unless you're making a direct contribution to the corporatocracy, then please just off and die. And now the attitude is going to be, if you don't buy in to our agenda of Extinction Rebellion, 12 years to save the planet, then fuck off and die. And of course, we saw that literally manifest in 2010 with the Global 1010 video, which I'll put a link to on my YouTube channel and under here. But of course, it's going to contravene community standards. So it probably won't last too long. But the important thing is that people do a bit of research and look at the mentality behind this obsession with climate change. because the consensus isn't all following the Extinction Rebellion mantra, and genuine science, genuine study will show that there is more than one view here of why we are experiencing some changes in weather patterns. And maybe, just maybe, those who were predicting the coming ice age back in the 1970s, where the fear porn then was global cooling, maybe that's a bit closer to the mark than the global warming. And in fact, one of my speakers at AV10, who I'm bringing in from Taiwan, has some remarkable evidence to show that maybe we are heading into a solar minimum, and the impact of global cooling as a result of the solar activity may be far more significant than even Extinction Rebellion are presenting. So this is not one-dimensional by any stretch of the imagination, and the crucial element is that people do their own research and don't just fall for all of the BS that's trotted out by the lamestream media. So I'm a bit out of practice on the morning broadcasts, but thanks for joining me this morning. And those of you who are watching who still think that Extinction Rebellion are the saviors of the planet and the saviors of our political system, then you probably won't be watching this again. And all I can say is, with all due respect, that's no loss. Because the important thing is that we reach out to those who do retain the capacity for independent thought, for making up their own minds and not kowtowing to the pressure of a social media agenda. And on that note, as I'm getting a little bit of attention here from my studio audience, I'll call it a day. Now, sadly, my day is not necessarily one I'm looking forward to, because I'm going to be heading over to Cheshire in a few hours to attend the funeral of Robert Greene, a truly outstanding campaigner who has spent the last decade plus trying to raise awareness of child abuse within the Scottish establishment. And for his pains, of course, Robert Greene has been incarcerated. He's been kept in solitary confinement, and sadly, after a short spell of dealing with cancer, he succumbed. So I'll be paying my respects to a truly outstanding campaigner, and be acknowledging the work that he has done in attempting to raise awareness of child abuse in Scotland. So on that note, I'll sign off today, and I will be back on Wednesday morning at 8:30. And then on Thursday, I shall be back in the studio for an episode of Humanity versus Insanity, where I will be joined by David Noakes and Lynn Tyre. And, one of the good things that's come out the last few weeks is that last Tuesday, David Noakes was released from Wandsworth Jail. Unfortunately, his health isn't what it should be, but he's taken a few days to recover. So please join me on Thursday and catch up with the latest, right from the horse's mouth, as it were, from David and Lynn. And thank you to everyone who's been asking after me over the last month. I did try and make it very clear that I wouldn't be broadcasting through April, but we're back. And obviously a long way to go. And let me just sign off with this one final statement. We are very, very close, after nearly 7 years, to shutting down fracking right across the UK. Of course, England is the only part of the UK that still seems to want to embrace this abomination. And my congratulations to all of those people who have been involved in bringing about the demise of this industry in this country. And had communities left it to the NGOs, then the country would have been well and truly fracked. So what we have witnessed within the anti-fracking community is genuine community activism, not the ersatz version that is trolled out by the corporatocracy under the guise of a grassroots movement when it's anything but. So thank you for all those who are doing their research. You are so important to the well-being of humanity and also the well-being of this planet. So thanks again, and I'll catch with you on Wednesday morning. You take care now.